We're traveling at about 300 to 400 feet and 70 knots going down the Greater Brador Channel to the Brador Lakes. So we're just at Ross Ferry, and what used to be the crossing of the Brador Lakes, and we're traveling west into the Bradors. The time is 1720, and the shoreline itself is a continuous fringing beach. Is not very well developed. It's more of a cliff, partially stabilized. Several residences right along the water with wharves. The beach where it does exist is sand and pebble. Several cottages there. They've tried to shore up their cliff with various ways of wood and rock. There's in places there's quite extensive shallows with the cobble boulder material in the near shore, and because the road lies right along the edge of the beach, there's a lot of riprap and stuff that's been holding the road in place. There's a nice beach there with a boat for scale, sand beach, a little foreland. There's several forelands along here, like McFarland's Point and so on. There seem to be a certain distance along the channel and formed by waves moving up and down the channel, especially as we get into the wider part of the Brador Lakes. Here's another example, a nice residence, sand beach, and a fairly shallow area just offshore. The road comes very close. We're in mostly the Pictou bedrock group along here, Carboniferous, and then we go into a Windsor group just up here at the area known as Black Island, Fraser Point. There's a lot of Carboniferous rocks in the area, whereas there's gneiss on the other side of the channel, in the highlands. Log cabin. This shore again is shore fill or poorly stabilized cliff, 15 to 20 meters and 5 to 10 it varies. As we come up onto Black Island, it's 1723. The shore, the beach actually disappears, and you just have the fairly steeply rising back shore tree, and then the near shore is fairly deep, although it's cobble boulder in front of it. Black Island, there's a shoal on either side of it, very shallow water in behind, and facing the Brador Lakes is a fairly extensive barrier with grass and wetland in behind. No obvious inlet. Coming up at the Coffin Point, another foreland. Again, this is more pebble, sand to pebble, and cobble boulder in the near shore. The barrier beach fronts wetland. Most of that pond is then filled and become wetland. There's no obvious outlet or inlet as well. As we approach the western end of Blunder Island, we come across less beach development and more rock cliff. A yellowish color, something we haven't seen in the last little while. It's not as red, it's more yellow. There's very little beach development, although some of the talus at the base of the cliff is vegetated. Relief is around 15 meters, and the terrain behind is even higher. The fringing beach increases in width as we approach Kemp Head. There's a bit of a foreland just at the corner as we come around to these consolidated cliffs, which have a slightly lower angle than the more sheer vertical cliffs just around the corner of Kemp Head, they're bedrock. Some sand just offshore. Time is 17:25 as we round the corner and head up into St. Andrews Channel. Flanking this Pictou group are Windsor rocks, the Carboniferous rocks, and so these seem to be the low-lying areas right along the edge of the highlands. Here you can see mostly bedrock in the back shore. It's more of a sandstone, more recessive, easily eroded. There's a walkway going down from that house. We're traveling about 300 feet and 60 knots. Along this part of the cliff, the elevation is probably increasing to about 20 meters, and mostly all bedrock, although there's a rubble at the base and narrow, shallow fringing near shore, and it gets quite deep.
In fact, the deepest water we find in the Blunder Lakes is just at the north end of St. Andrew's Channel.
We're reaching 256 feet up near the head.
It's also opposite the one of the core sites that's going to be taken by the Marine Chemistry Group at VIO.
Again, it's uninhabited. There's a dirt road that goes along the back of the shore here, so there's good accessibility in case of an oil spill, but the shore itself is a low 5 to 10 meter high cliff, partially eroded, mostly bedrock, some unconsolidated material on the top, but mostly bedrock. Some residences along here, and the actual shore is a boulder cobble leg. Come up at the Point Clear. It's another one of these little forelands. Great place for navigation lights that extend out into the channel. Lots of little recurve bridges.
Farther north, the fringing beach continues to be fairly narrow. There's some unconsolidated deposits on the back shore, more of a cobble boulder lag shore along here. There's a small river channel coming out of the highlands, and as you come up to this corner, you see that the unconsolidated deposits are probably being fed to this little foreland where you see more sand offshore and a much better developed pebble beach at this foreland. In fact, the beach is wider around the corner for a short while, and then it goes back into its sort of narrow lag deposit.
Time is 17:29. Our relief has increased probably to 15 to 20 meters along the shore. It appears to be more drift over bedrock. We're back into the Picto group again now. So it's probably primarily bedrock. Then all of a sudden we'll switch back into the gypsum, probably of Windsor age, along the island, Point Harbor, and Island Point. You can see in the head of Island Point Harbor a barrage across the head of it, protecting that pond behind, and then this long stretch of shore on the outer part is all bedrock controlled. The inner shore is just that low-lying fringy beach with moderately sloping backshore.
We've got intermittent high backshore with unconsolidated deposits and high backshore with gypsum deposits. In fact, some of the gypsum deposits are exposed just at the base of the unconsolidated cliffs. What you see is no beach where the gypsum is. In fact, there's a wave undercutting. And as you get back into the unconsolidated deposits, there's more of a lag deposit at the base of the cliffs. In fact, there's a distinct line offshore that looks like gravel and maybe even gypsum or sand.
1731, we're just coming up on a small, another foreland with several beach ridges, trees on the backside that's developed at the edge of these Island Point headland. It's actually cut into itself. There's a fair bit of overwashing and beach ridge development. If you round Island Point, we're going a short ways into Island Point Harbor, and then across over to the other shore, the main shore. Now you get a view looking down Island Point Harbor and the extensive gypsum deposits. It's too bad that high tide was so close to now. You get several of these little cuspate forelands along here. Starting to pick up a bit of wind in this area too. We'll just cut around and then back onto the shore. There's some of these hollows that you see here in the island are actually sinkholes. They're quite deep, deeper than the outer shores, and there's sort of submerged ridges across them. It's not unlikely to find sinkholes even in the middle of this long peninsula. You get them.
We're just going to cut across, not see the head, but over to what looks to be McCreville's Pond.
We're going to increase to 80 knots because the shoreline along Blunder Island is pretty much the same. It's sort of flying at 400 and we're increasing to 80 knots because much of the shoreline is fairly moderate slope, probably almost underlain by picto rocks. The shore itself is a very narrow, fringing pebble cobble beach, and the back shore looks like a stabilized cliff in a lot of places. It's vegetated in this area where the farm is, and then other areas it's mostly treed. Very sparsely populated all along this part of Blunder Island. Actually, just up here, we're going to switch from Victoria County into, I guess it would be Cape Breton County. elevation along here, up to around 300 feet in the back shore. Moderate sloping back shore, treed, some farmland. The beach is poorly developed, but occasionally behind headlands you'll get fringy, narrow pebble cobble beach and a wide, shallow area with pebble cobble material. And as we go into the high part, Roderick Head area towards Black Brook, we're getting into a very high bedrock shore. Very little beach. Some landslides down the slope. There's a high vegetated cliff, but it appears to be fairly stable, except for those occasional landslides that are fairly localized. The base is bedrock right at the water level, and there's very little near shore. It seems to drop off fairly rapidly. Like I said, you're 900 feet plus deep, 256 meters at the head of St. Andrews Channel up here. We're off Core 11 site of the Marine Chemistry Group. There's a very small barrier going across a river, probably Black Brook. Our time is 17:37. We're coming up into Shaffield Point in a minute. Most of this shore is bedrock. Pictou group. Sandstones. Very large farm at the top of the cliff. Then we get to Shaffield Point. There's a really beautiful area of farmland on this point. You can see the bedrock is controlling the location of this point. Bedrock all along the shore. And boulder debris at the base of the bedrock. All the way up to hillside Blunder, it's pretty well high bedrock cliffs, partially stabilized by vegetation, but there's certainly more free face along this section of the coast than there was before. So it's certainly less stable than the other area. Coming up in the Saunders Cove is the area where they were doing some trawl marks on the bottom to check out the how to detect them with the side scan. It's mostly a sandstone clay bottom in Saunders Cove, and that's why they used it for a testing area for ground trawl marks. Starting to get back into more of the Windsor group occasionally around Groves Point, and we just want to buy some gypsum outcrops in Saunders Cove. The shore again is still bedrock primarily. There's a pebble fringing beach. And then at the headland here, you've got erosional cliff cobble boulders at the base. Some of them look to be man-made or at least rearranged. And cutting across the Groves Point, time is 1740. Coming around Groves Point, again a scarp of bedrock, picto group, and then the beach is sand, double cobble, some dune grass in the back shore. Much lower shore along here, more wetland in the back of the dune vegetation. Sort of a small fringy beach, more anchorage in the Groves Point area for sailboats as we approach up into the Bredor Channel. Again, much of the shore is bedrock based, intermittent anyway, and then these headlands have a coarse cobble boulder along the just offshore, and the actual beach area itself is grassed, probably quite sandy, and then the back shore is the road. We follow the road all the way up towards Bredor.
The zone between the highway and the shore is very narrow. It's vegetated with grasses and shrub growth. There's not much beach until a little bit further down where you start to see more fringy beach. But offshore you can see a zone of shallow water, that brownish color, which is probably sand and pebble. Much more mooring of boats along here.
Coming up into Chapel Point, Bredor area. The shoreline is much more populated. Yachting marinas, spit, nice small spit extending into the channel area. Across the Trans-Canada Highway and head up into the channel, St. Andrews Channel. We're crossing the power line. And heading towards Mill Creek. Through the channel, it's very narrow. Very little beach development. You can see there's been some coal wharves along here at one time. It's mostly a low-lying scarp, but not excessively erosional. There's several wharves and other residential facilities along the waterway. Many people have their boats anchored here, especially fishing boats. There's no beach to speak of, though. A lot of people have pools, actually. Coming up towards Alder Point, you get into more of a shoal along the side of the channel, very shallows, where the river channel is meandered and left this shallow area on this side, then a shallow area on the other side. Quite a bit of boating going along the side of the channel, wetland and vegetated. You gain a bit more beach development wherever you get these shallow areas towards Mill Creek, and we're just ending up at just past Alder Point and coming up into McCreville. Just make a circle. We're just at McCreville and it's 1745. And as we turn, you'll get a good idea of the outer coast that we filmed in 1992. Some of the fishing boats coming in, and the shore has been quarried in different places, and it's mostly bedrock cliff on the outer coast and bedrock shoals. Going by McCreville and the fishing plant there. A lot of the boats are tied up at the wharf to become a wharf. And you get better lighting going this way. You can see better the extensive shoals that line the channel in the little embayments. There's quite a few wharves all along here. Time is 1747. Just coming past Alder Point. There's a bit of a barrier at the edge of the shoal. The inner part seems to be sand or mud. The fishermen returning home, tie up at the wharf. Another one of the public wharves just coming into view. You can see more bedrock along that shore at places. Again, the Pictou group. And inland, you can see a lot of areas where there's been quarrying going on, the coal mining and so on. Swinging around down the channel. The other side, again, is mostly bedrock, very little beach. The elevation of the back shore is probably 10 meters. A few small embayments, and that's where you find more of the wharves and boat ramps. As we get back down to the Brador area and the St. Andrews Channel. So we're coming along, and we're just reaching the Trans-Canada Highway again at Labrador and the top of St. Andrews Channel. It's a very large residential area, campground, a trailer park on the far side, bridge, old church, I don't know the year of it, and cemetery behind. That's an older established area. Chapel Point, which has a nice recurve coming around the sort of the north side of the headland.